Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move the motion that pursuant to provision of Standing Order 24-6, the thanks of the Senate be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of the President during the opening of the 12th Parliament, delivered on Tuesday, 12 September 2017. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to, first of all, go back to my earlier comments that as a House, we have business to do. The Standing Order and the Constitution provides that the President may preside over the official opening of Parliament as he did yesterday. Mr. Speaker, if you listen carefully yesterday when the President was speaking to the country, he was speaking as a head of state. And I think it's important, first of all, to be reminded that the people of Kenya, via the Constitution of Kenya 2010, agreed that they would have a system of government that in the first place recognizes, or a constitutional order that recognizes the supremacy of the Almighty God, and in the second instance is the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. And Article 1, which has been quoted largely in this country and misquoted to suit people's personal interest at any given time, provides that although the sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya as provided in Article 1, in subsection 2, the people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. The Speaker, this is a very important statement, that there are two very important entities that must be recognized. The first is the people. This Constitution was enacted because we believe that the people are supreme. It is the people who are donating their powers to other entities. It is the people who exercises their sovereign power directly. And there is no better way of exercising sovereign power directly, Mr. Speaker, than by voting for leaders that they want. Mr. Speaker, that is why in the second part of Article 1, subsection 2, there is a recognition of the sovereign power of the people, and that those people can exercise power directly or through their democratically elected representative. If you go to these other entities that are not democratically elected, like the judiciary, like the independent officers, like the public service, and so many other organs, they are exercising donated power, which is delegated by the people. But in the first instance, democracy and democratic elections are very important in procuring the right people that are going to represent the interests of the people. That's why, Mr. Speaker, this side of the House, as you can see, is full today, because these people were democratically elected by the people of Kenya, and in their majority, given the power to come and represent them in this House. That's why we have 39 senators, Mr. Speaker, on this side, and our colleagues on the other side have 28 senators. It is not by accident that, therefore, the people of Kenya said, at this point in time, they would elect a coalition of parties or a party, Mr. Speaker, in the minority side that would represent their interest. But when these people make the election as they did in Elgeyo Marakwet County, or as they did in Tharaka Nithi County, or as they did in Kericho County, or any other county, Mr. Speaker, including Lamu County, represented by Senator Ole Tiptip here, is that, Mr. Speaker, those people sent us with very clear message, knowing that Article 96 was very important. Article 96 that deals with matters of devolution, representation of the people, Mr. Speaker, oversight of county governments. As you will realize, Mr. Speaker, now that you are on this side of the divide, we do our job here in oversighting county government robustly. And I'm sure one way or another, you brush shoulders with the senators and the Senate in that very robust responsibility, because we take this responsibility of the people seriously. And in President's speech yesterday, I'd like to commend the President, because it was like President was taking us back to the foundations of our constitution, that it is the people that are important. It is that democratic process of election that is important. It is that ballot paper that is casted by that old grandmother in Turkana, who perhaps did not have the benefit of going to any school. It is that very important ballot that is casted by that person, Mr. Speaker, in Mandera, that Mr. Speaker went to the ballot paper and said that I want to make this decision. In other countries, they don't have the benefit that we do as a nation to spend the 30 billion we used last time and another 15 billion we are using to achieve this very important process. But nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, even where they use a plain paper, where someone comes and marks a plain paper, or even where they use a paper that has no security measures, Mr. Speaker, that intention of that voter, that democratic right, that sovereignty being exercised by that voter is so key that other institutions that was alluded by the President yesterday, who are exercising what is called delegated responsibility as state organs, just like Parliament as a whole, or County Assembly as a whole, judiciary, or the executive, must recognize as a first instance that when the mandate is given by the people, this is what they mean and this is what it needs. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, some of us have a quarrel with the decision of the judiciary. We are not allowed in this House to discuss any conduct of any judge as a House. But, Mr. Speaker, we can expose and discuss any decision that has been rendered and made public, and we have done so many times here, that when we make certain decisions like the Supreme Court did that led to the nullification of the sovereign power of the people, that sovereignty directly exercises sovereignty by the people by the ballot. And it rarely happens, Mr. Speaker, because the people get only a chance to do this direct exercise of sovereign power either at the ballot when they are electing us or when we have a referendum, which we are yet to have under this new constitution. We had it before. We had it so that we gave birth to this constitution. And therefore, as a country, I believe that my colleagues on this side, taking President's advice, and this Senate as a whole, we must now sit down as the aftermath of the decision of the Supreme Court and ask ourselves, what are some of the legislations that this House must pass to clarify the foundation of our democracy, the importance of the voter? Because, Mr. Speaker, as I have said elsewhere, and I heard also the Deputy President saying it elsewhere, is that, Mr. Speaker, you cannot tell the voter that by marking a ballot paper, you will have spoken, Mr. Speaker. You will have made a decision. And later, through an entity that exercises donated or delegated responsibility without the benefit of having gone through this process, Mr. Speaker, you cannot just wake up by a simple majority of 7 people and make a decision and say you should have followed your paper to ensure that it is laminated, to ensure that it has a serial number, to ensure that it has a stamp, that it has been carried electronically. So, Mr. Speaker, the truth must be clarified by this House and the National Assembly and Parliament as a whole as to whether you can rob a citizen of his right under Article 38, political rights, by virtue of using technicalities. In any case, the Constitution itself says that while interpreting the Constitution, you must give it life, you must give it meaning. It must respond to the culture, the lives, the lifestyle of the people. Because, Mr. Speaker, you cannot start telling people to behave as though they are in Singapore if they are still living in Mandera, where basic rights of water, road, and so forth, you tell them, as a result of not having something called KIMS, or you don't have a scanner, or because you don't have 3G or 4G network, that, Mr. Speaker, you tell them your right to vote was not successful because there was no 4G network in your area or 3G. These are the things that I hope this House, borrowing from the President's speech, can be able to ask ourselves, how better can we ensure in the near future that under Elections Act, under elections laws, there is a clear provision as to when you can be able to limit a right, and a right that has actually only the citizens have only once in 5 years to exercise, while the rest of us who are exercising delegated responsibility and those of us who are indirectly representing the people here have a responsibility to do other things. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, there has been a debate And that's what the president also spoke about yesterday, whether the president should have come to the House yesterday. And Mr. Speaker, this takes us back, and I know scholars of law who are going to write many journal articles, many books, and write about the history of Kenya in 2017 and the decision of the Supreme Court insofar as nullification of the president's results are concerned, are going to follow up on the words of the Chief Justice and the majority of the court, that Mr. Speaker came out and said that the president's election have not only been invalidated, but in the words of the Chief Justice, that they are null and void. Mr. Speaker, the simple definition of null and void for legal practitioners and lawyers and scholars is that, Mr. Speaker, it is as though it never happened in the first place. So if, for example, that definition is going to be taken seriously, because the Supreme Court, the Constitution just says that the Supreme Court can invalidate an election. But if that invalidation goes to the extent of declaration of nullity in the election itself, it would mean, therefore, that we must erase in our minds that an election of president took place on 8th of August. If that is the application then of the definition of the decision of the Supreme Court, it would then mean that the president at any given time never became a temporary, never exercised temporary incumbency. And if he did, that temporary incumbency was nullified by the Supreme Court by declaring the elections of the president null and void. And if that is the case, therefore, President Uhuru Kenyatta is not at the moment a temporary exercising a period of temporary incumbency. And Mr. Speaker, this will have different definitions. If you read Article 134, it says that of the Constitution, it says that the temporary incumbency of the president ensues because of what Article 134 says, that a person who holds the office of the president or who is authorized in terms of this Constitution to exercise the powers of the president, A, during the period of commencement of the date of the first vote in a presidential election and ending when the newly elected president assumes office, will now therefore, will be exercising temporary incumbency. So the first vote, which would have been the vote of August 8th, would have created a situation of temporary incumbency of the president. But what happens when that first vote was declared null and void? What does that mean in terms of definition of nullity of an election? If the meaning is therefore that as though the first vote under Article 134 never existed in the first place, which means there was no elections of the president. Therefore, it means that the temporary incumbency of President Uhuru Kenyatta was also nullified by the Supreme Court. And if it was nullified by the Supreme Court, then he is exercising the constitutional powers that were donated to him since 2013. That is argument number one. Argument number two, Mr. Speaker, is that assuming that President Kenyatta was therefore a temporary president, he is exercising a period of temporary incumbency. And you know, these things can easily be tested. If President Kenyatta, for example, tomorrow wakes up and appoints someone, a cabinet secretary, and forwards to the chambers, of course someone will rush to court or someone will try to seek a definition of whether he has that power. Assuming then he was exercising temporary incumbency, the Constitution itself says that the only limitations that or powers that are limited by the Constitution at the period of temporary incumbency or during the period of temporary incumbency is the nomination and appointment of judges to the superior courts, the nomination and appointment of any other public officer whom this Constitution or legislation requires the president to appoint, the nomination, appointment, or dismissal of cabinet secretaries, other state or public officers, the nomination or appointment of dismissal of high commissioners, ambassadors, diplomatic and consular representatives, the power of mercy, and the authority to confer honors in the name of the people and the Republic of Kenya. You can see very clearly that our friends who erroneously boycotted Parliament yesterday in the official opening of Parliament, and who I hope are not in extension, and I congratulate the Honorable Senator of Turkana because of his taking his representative responsibility seriously, Mr. Speaker, and stoically representing the other side with a lot of confidence and passion, And I believe we will demonstrate that later when he makes his contributions to the House. Mr. Speaker, such men must be honored for the seriousness in which they take when it comes to their responsibility to their citizens, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I am saying this because if you read these sections, there is no provisions here that says that the president cannot open parliament. It is no provision that says the president cannot address parliament. There is no provision that says the president cannot have a cabinet meeting. There is no provision that says the president cannot build roads. There is no provision that says the work should stop in this country. There is no provision that says the president cannot order policemen or the armed forces to perform their security responsibility. So what the president told us yesterday, despite even whatever interpretations other people may have over Article 134, is that the country is running. The executive is working. The legislature is working, as you can see. The judiciary is working, as you can see what they did towards our election. So it's important for every citizen to have this confidence, and us as leaders to give the confidence to the public that we have the President of Kenya. And we chose via our constitution that when we have the President of Kenya, we will have the President of Kenya from the time the one who has been sworn in until a new one has been elected, Mr. Speaker, because the founding fathers of this constitution, whom many of them are still alive, Mr. Speaker, and we are all of us here, Mr. Speaker, played a role in one way or another. Many legislators here, sitting here, played a role in one way or another in the establishment of this constitution, that, Mr. Speaker, we knew that there will never be a vacuum in this country. That brings me to the next question, Mr. Speaker. If, therefore, we are exercising sovereign power of the people, we've been given certain responsibilities, we've been told that you have separation of powers between executive, legislature, and judiciary, but again, Article 6 of the Constitution says that we must work together through consultation and cooperation. And many people make this assumption that when you say judiciary is independent, or legislature is independent, or executive is independent, we do not mean, Mr. Speaker, they are independent for purpose of frustrating the services they must offer to the people of Kenya. That brings me to the next question, Mr. Speaker, that what happened yesterday in the gallery of Parliament is unacceptable. In terms of, Mr. Speaker, for the first time since I came to Parliament, and perhaps since the history of Parliament, for the first time when the executive was having a serious engagement, Mr. Speaker, the judiciary was absent. The Chief Justice was not there. The Deputy Chief Justice was not there. The representation of Judicial Service Commissions was not there, Mr. Speaker. We are asking ourselves, and permit me to ask this, Mr. Speaker, is it that the judiciary was, Mr. Speaker, decided to follow in the decision of one side of the political divide in the country to say they are not coming to the House, Mr. Speaker? Did they consult with our colleagues in NASA? Did they, Mr. Speaker, believe that they are aiding the cause of NASA? Because that's a very disturbing question. Because when the president comes to Parliament to open Parliament and the two speakers of Parliament are there, it's one of those opportunities we can demonstrate to the people of Kenya that the three arms of government are able to work together and support each other. That's why when the Chief Justice is being sworn in, the President is there. The President has a role in appointment of the Chief Justice, despite the fact that it's opposite. Mr. Speaker, we've held so many consultation meetings with the judiciary, and the Speaker of this House and the Speaker of National Assembly has availed himself. So the question which bothers me is, where was the Chief Justice? Is it possible that the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice would have missed such an important event without any Kenyan importing the decision of the Supreme Court in the recent presidential nullification into mind, Mr. Speaker? To ask, Mr. Speaker, is it possible that that absence was choreographed, agreed upon, designed to try to create an impression that the president was not the president as defined by the Constitution? Because I'm asking these questions because some people say the Chief Justice is on holiday or some meetings in Lithuania with one member of the Supreme Court. And the question I'm asking myself, at such a very critical moment, after rendering such a serious decision, the judiciary must have demonstrated the kind of leadership they should have shown, that they should be available where they ought to be, even if it is not as a matter of law, as a matter of tradition. And for the first time, when the history of this country will be written, it will be noted, Mr. Speaker. And I like the way media houses noted last night and even today. It will be noted, Mr. Speaker, that there was a period in time that we had an emotional judiciary, or judiciary led by an emotional person that made a decision that they are not coming to come here. And I don't want to discuss the conduct of the Chief Justice as a person. I just want to leave it to the point of an institution of the judiciary. I would not have a problem if they had sent clerks, Mr. Speaker, clerks of the judiciary, or the staff of the judiciary, or the registrar of the judiciary, but at least we should have had a representation of an important arm of government called judiciary in such an important function that we had yesterday. Mr. Speaker, some will say we have criticized the judiciary so vehemently that perhaps it made it impossible for them to come here. Mr. Speaker, there is no one who gets criticized more than us, elected leaders. Every person who sits here, every senator who sits here, Mr. Speaker, has gone through the worst times of kind of accusations, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many senators here, Grace, their names are found in sometimes very what we call gutter praise, Mr. Speaker, with all manner of allegations, Mr. Speaker. And I want to tell senators who are here today, Mr. Speaker, I like to tell new senators who have come here, Mr. Speaker, that they must be ready to face all kinds of accusations, Mr. Speaker, and they must grow the thick skin that will give them the strength to overcome those many accusations, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, that is, Mr. Speaker, and I want to ask the senators that they, in their own unofficial time at the lounge, they may need to have a chat with Senator Gideon Moi to assist them not to find themselves in certain situations, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that it is important. We get criticized here. We get insulted on social media. We get SMSs, Mr. Speaker, from people we've never met that say so weird things. But when we go back, when we come back to this house, we do not legislate against those who hate us. We do not, Mr. Speaker, say, I am going to be a senator of Elgeyo Marakwet for only those who voted for me, and those who didn't vote me can, can stay. When we go back home, we have a responsibility to listen and represent every shade of idea from every citizen of our constituencies, which is the county for this matter. Because, Mr. Speaker, we must separate the criticism we get from the public and the constitutional responsibility, because we don't have a choice. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I still believe that when the Chief Justice, as a leader of the Supreme Court, will sit down and reflect on this moment, he will realize that this was a big mistake to abscond a very important function of the legislature that brings together all the arms of government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like also to congratulate the President for recognizing, Mr. Speaker, the importance of these elections for this Republic of Kenya. For the first time, Mr. Speaker, we have 3 elected senators, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I am extremely proud that those 3 elected senators come from the side of the House that I represent, Mr. Speaker. Senator Susan Kihiga, Mr. Speaker, who is the whip of the Senate. Senator Fatuma Dulo, who is the deputy majority leader, Mr. Speaker, and you can see how Jubilee has positioned these people. Senator Margaret Kamar, Mr. Speaker, a very respectable former minister, and who shall also make a serious contribution and service in this House, as you will see sooner or later. Mr. Speaker, the 3 women, Mr. Speaker, are trailblazers, the first senators ever, since 1963, because we are the first Senate, we didn't have a single woman. Mr. Speaker, we have the first Senate of the Republic of Kenya having 3 elected ladies by an overwhelming majority. And they are here of their own right, Mr. Speaker. And it gives me greater encouragement that Senator Fatuma Dulo was elected. Because, Mr. Speaker, it shows and gives hope to the 18 nominated ladies here that it is not enough to be nominated. It gives you a way, Mr. Speaker, to come back as elected. And if you know where Senator Fatuma Dulo comes from, you will understand that from a pastoralist area with a great marginalization, Mr. Speaker, she has broken the ceiling. And this is an encouragement for all senators who are sitting here, who are ladies, of course, except my seat, that you can go for any seat in this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that's on a light note. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that when the history of legislature will be written, definitely the three ladies will have their names up there, Mr. Speaker, as the women who opened doors for many other women. Mr. Speaker, I want to be very proud of senators who are here without mentioning their names. Senator Gideon Moi knows. We had about, I think, 4 senators who left this House, Mr. Speaker, to the National Assembly. And if time was permitting, I would have mentioned all their names. But, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that they, too, are trailblazers because they were nominated senators here, but now they are members of National Assembly. And, Mr. Speaker, I must note that it is on both sides of the political divide that we were lucky to have women-nominated senators to serve in the National Assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, again, it was the first time in the Republic of Kenya we have governors, 3 governors who are women who are elected as governors, Mr. Speaker. Governor Joyce Laboso, Mr. Speaker, Governor Anne Waiguru, Mr. Speaker, and Governor, the most experienced women politician, Honorable Charity Ngilu. And 3 of them, again, are trailblazers, Mr. Speaker, in terms of showing our women, showing our ladies, showing our children, including my young daughter, Mr. Speaker, that they can dream to be able to rise to positions of office. And, Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President has been on the forefront in encouraging, Mr. Speaker, that growth in terms of having women who in leadership. And, Mr. Speaker, no wonder it is out of the 3 governors, we have 2 from Jubilee side, Mr. Speaker. And out of the 3 senators, Mr. Speaker, we have 100%, 3 of them from Jubilee side. It shows that the President is not just talking. He's a man who actually exercises that commitment. And if you talk to these ladies in person, Mr. Speaker, they must have got moral support. If you talk to those 2 governor ladies, they got moral support from the political party that they come from because they take seriously the responsibility they have, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like also, as I approach the conclusion of my presentation, Mr. Speaker, to say that there is something that I would have liked the President to speak about, but which I believe, Mr. Speaker, we are going there. Mr. Speaker, this is about this House. And I want senators in this House to listen to me. If you've come to this House for the first time, you must understand that you came to a House that will need your commitment, passion, thoughts, Mr. Speaker, in delivering the functions we have. Mr. Speaker, there was a debate the other day about salaries, about remuneration, about what these people should be paid. That is not what concerns us as most as senators. What concerns us so much as senators, Mr. Speaker, is that we've been given serious constitutional responsibilities in Article 96. Yet, Mr. Speaker, there is no commensurate provision of structures and resources for running that office, Mr. Speaker. We tried in the last 4.5 years, to fight for a Senate, Mr. Speaker, that has structures, offices, and resources to deliver on its mandate. You cannot, Mr. Speaker, elect people and put them in a particular place and hope that, Mr. Speaker, they should fail. Mr. Speaker, we are not going to accept our senators to come and hang our political careers in this House, Mr. Speaker, because the state could not support the function that has been provided in this Constitution. You find yourself in a situation like Senator Mitika Linturi, you are elected by 700,000 people. And then you arrive here, there's another person who was elected by 4,000 people. He has resources to be able to serve the 4,000 people. You go to the county and people are wondering, well, you know, this guy, 700,000 votes. What was the point of electing such a person who cannot reach a ward, who doesn't have even an officer in the ward that people can take their questions? Senator Sakaja here was elected by almost 1 million people, by representing 17 constituencies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how will he be able to go and reach that person in Kayole? How will he reach that person in Dandora, Mr. Speaker? How will that person in Kangemi, Mr. Speaker, present their issues, Mr. Speaker? Although the President didn't discuss this issue, I think this is a matter that will come up, Mr. Speaker, from this House. As the majority leader of this House, Mr. Speaker, I will not sleep, I will not tire until Senate becomes the Senate we always dream of. So that, Mr. Speaker, when we move forward there, we will tell the children and the children of our children that when we served in the Senate, we played a role in ensuring that the Senate is an admirable institution that can be able to deliver on its mandate. Because, Mr. Speaker, we are not, you can give us vehicles, you can give us offices, beautiful offices in Nairobi, but how will that be useful, Mr. Speaker, if we cannot reach that common mwananchi, that person who speaks a Marakwet language, Mr. Speaker, that KO, Mr. Speaker, somewhere in Kocholo, Mr. Speaker, is waiting for his representation on Prosper Mining to reach to his senator, Mr. Speaker. And how will it reach if he doesn't have an officer who is working in the office of the senator who can be reached by the people? This House, Mr. Speaker, when we shall send the next batch of senators who are going to serve as in the Parliamentary Service Commission, when I will sit with the executive, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority side, Mr. Speaker, and I hope when the minority side would have elected their leaders, we will have collection of minds, we will have meeting of minds, Mr. Speaker, we will have, Mr. Speaker, an intercourse of minds by everybody to ensure that this House, Mr. Speaker, becomes the House that when you say I'm the Speaker of the Senate, the nation knows that it is that Senate that have senators that can be able to reach the people, that can be able to do oversight, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are 6 senators that left this House. Passionate 6 senators. Senator Stephen Sang, Senator Lonyangapuo, Senator Anyang' Nyong'o, Senator Kiraitu Murungi, Senator Mohamed Kuti, and I think who was the other senator. There are 6 of them. And Senator of Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, Senator Mike Songo, very passionate here. People who are fighting to say we must Senate to be strong. And we must ensure that Senate carries its oversight responsibility. Senator Lonyangapuo was the Vice Chair of County Public Accounts and Investment Committee. Mr. Speaker, I want to give a message from the floor of the House to all those senators who are now governors. We are coming for you. You better do the job you are doing with the dedication and commitment you expected the senators you replaced to do, Mr. Speaker. And I believe they will also be trailblazers in county government to ensure that the work they are going to do in the county is going, Mr. Speaker, to respect what the President said, the sovereign power of the people. And, Mr. Speaker, we are not going to lazy and sleep and say, because they are our friends, we are not going to carry out our oversight responsibility. We will do, Mr. Speaker, with passion and commitment so that the people of this country will remember that the Senate of Kenya, the second Senate of Kenya, under the new constitution, was a serious Senate. With all those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move, Mr. Speaker, and ask, who wants that honor? And ask Senate Deputy Majority Leader, Mr. Speaker, Senator Fatuma Dulo, to second this motion, Mr. Speaker.